So New Year's resolution, obviously a lot of people want to get into shape. You know, not everyone's top New Year's resolution goal is to kind of improve their health and wellness. But for those that are, they're probably going to focus on, so prostate cancer needs to be addressed to lose 30 pounds. Okay, so Scott, you want to lose 30 pounds. So that's not too much. It's fairly easy to do. One thing I would recommend is what I try to, hey, what's going on, Randy? One thing I would recommend is to look at, this is addressing Scott's question, to look at fat gain as basically like a symptom. So you have to look at it through kind of like an etiology tree. And there's a really good program in this called 1, 2, 3, 4, Overcoming Obesity, Addiction, and Disease. And it basically works for anything. But basically, if you see fat gain as like a symptom instead of a standalone cause, it'll be much easier. What's going on, Tim? Good to see you, man. It'll be much easier to understand like how to create lasting change with your fat loss goals. So, for example, fat gain, when a person gains body weight that they're not happy with, that's like a symptom. It's a symptom of poor lifestyle and poor nutritional choices. And most people would just kind of go that deep and they would focus on the lifestyle and they would focus on the nutrition. But it goes far, far deeper than that if you want to create lasting change. If you want to lose maybe, what's going on, Dimitri or Dammer? If you want to lose maybe, you know, like 30 pounds, it's easy to do that just focusing on nutrition and diet alone. You can probably do that, and you've seen a lot of people lose weight, but then what happens usually in 90% of cases is they regain the weight back. And basically because of that is that they just focus on changing their diet. They just focus on changing their workout. So like working out more, eating a little bit better, but they never focus on like fixing the foundation of what led to all that weight gain to begin with. Or maybe they do, but just a little bit here and there, not enough to really create like a solid foundation to build a fitness routine on. So basically try to view fat gain as a symptom of poor lifestyle and nutrition choices. And poor lifestyle and nutrition choices should be seen as a symptom of obviously a mindset that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices. So, and that is typically broken down, and that alone is a symptom of basically 3 different things. So 3 different things, and then a 4th one I kind of included on the side just from personal observation of being a fat loss coach for about 14 years now. So 1 is, Sean, what's going on? Good to see you. Brian, good to see you as well. So 1 is typically there is like a love-hate relationship in the person's life. So this could take shape in a myriad of different ways, but a very typical one that you hear is, you know, like I've been married for 10 years to this person and I really genuinely did love this person in the beginning, but we have our differences. We kind of went different ways and I no longer love this person for one reason or another, but I stay with them basically either for social pressure or for financial reasons or you know, for religious reasons or whatever else. It could be like a myriad of reasons. And this creates kind of like an uneasiness in the central nervous system, which basically makes a person feel kind of like powerless. Powerless and also not loved in that relationship, because in a sense they don't love that person anymore, although they maybe even genuinely did love them in the beginning. But because they don't love them anymore, they're kind of, in a sense, being fake in that relationship. And that creates this kind of, like I mentioned, uneasiness in the central nervous system. And also they feel they don't have control to get out of that relationship for one reason or another. So typically what happens is the person then seeks food as a source of comfort, because food provides the person with control. They can, you know, eat the food when they want it. They can put it away when they want it. Especially these days, it's more accessible than ever. I mean, there's fast food places everywhere, grocery stores everywhere. You could even order food now that comes straight directly to your door, etc., etc. And so they have the control variable. They can pick it up. They can put it away when they like. They don't have this control variable in the relationship. Another thing is the food provides them the unconditional love and accepts them like for who they genuinely are, which once again is not present in that relationship anymore. So once again, they can pick this food up, it gives them the unconditional love they seek, and then they can put it away as well. So then once again, that leads to that mindset that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices, which leads to poor nutritional choices, which leads to also poor lifestyle choices, which leads to weight gain. And then kind of like another variable that's most always present with weight challenges, and by weight challenges, I mean a person that is already knows how to lose weight, but they still have trouble like losing weight. And then also a person that loses weight just to find themselves regaining it again, and finding this pattern like very, very consistent. George, it's good to see you again, man. Pablo, good to see you as well. Finding this pattern very, very consistent. So that's what I'm referring to as like weight challenges. Then obviously it leads to the weight gain. Another one most often present is there's typically like a story gap, which causes uneasiness once again in the central nervous system. So this story gap, what I'm referring to is basically, in short, once again, it could be like a myriad of different things. The person, let's say, wants to be like an artist, but they don't feel safe in society expressing that who they genuinely are inside, and that's really like an artist. And what I mean by don't feel safe is they don't feel like they'll be able to make enough money to pay for groceries or a living situation, so they'll be homeless, and then obviously their biological self isn't safe. So once again, they feel like if they express who they really are, which is an artist in society isn't going to reward them for that. It could be because they think their art isn't that great, or maybe they don't have the marketing or business skills or whatever. So they pick to be, let's just say a random example, like a warehouse manager or a lawyer or something like that, which is a more established career and more likely to give you a predictable income. Not necessarily 100% likely, but just more likely to. So you see, the person doesn't feel safe being themselves in society in that facet of life. So they be this manager, but then obviously, it gives you that biological safety, but not that mental satisfaction. So basically, you're physically safe, but you're mentally kind of distressed in the sense that, you want to be drawing pictures, but you have to go be a warehouse manager for 8 hours and fill out complicated, accounting sheets, look at all these boxes, manage a team of 12 people or whatever. And in the back of your head, you're like, oh, but I just want to be, in an art class, picking these cool pencils, which ones I'm going to use, and these cool paints, and then drawing. Keith, good to see you, man. Jason, good to see you as well. Paco, good to see you as well. I want to be, drawing pictures. And this is probably going to be okay for like 2 or 3 years, but then, and I'm pretty sure most of us have felt this in some form in our career, but then at the end of the day, it kind of just grows on you. So it's like, you want to be painting, but you're doing, like paperwork for like 10 hours or something. And then you grow disgruntled towards your work. It causes your central nervous system to be revved up. And basically you once again seek out food. So food gives you that unconditional love, like in that love-hate relationship that you want. It also provides you with power. A person doesn't feel like they have the power to express being an artist, in this example, in society. But that food, they can pick it up, they can eat it when they want it, and they can put it away. And basically that food also provides them with that unconditional love and accepts them for who they are, which is the artist they are deep down inside, not the warehouse manager. There's nothing wrong with being a warehouse manager. Some people are suited for that work. Then it will be a good alignment for them. But in this case, the person deep down inside, their unconditional self, their true self, without all the masks that society forces to put on, is an artist. So basically the food gives them that love and it accepts them, they put it away. Then once again, it leads to the weight gain, But the problem is with having food, for example, Armando, good to see you. Nestor, good to see you as well. Food, for example, is you're trying to satisfy like a mental need with a physical object. So food, which never kind of happens, and then you get a lot of weight gain. And I know in fitness, there's also a huge tendency to be like, oh, you just got to be like more disciplined or more mentally tougher. And you'll hear this from a lot of family members, but it's ill-advised because you want to, moreover, get rid of these environments that cause those temptations and food cravings to begin with. So in this case, the love-hate relationship, also the story gap that we're talking about right now. So you don't get those spikes in cortisol, which don't basically lead to those food cravings. So that way you don't have to be so mentally tough 24/7, which is very draining. I'd rather you just, like, for example, instead of learning how to fight, just learn how to be good at avoiding dangerous situations. It's probably going to be much safer for you long term anyways. It's kind of be in that kind of mindset. And then the last one is, well, there are actually two more, but the last big one from the program 1, 2, 3, 4, Overcoming Obesity, Addiction, and Disease, is basically the person feels empty inside. Stefan, good to see you, man. Long time no see. The person feels empty inside. So in this case, the typical example, there could be, once again, many, is no matter how much success the person achieves, the ladder is kind of leaned against the wrong building. So no matter how high they climb in their career or whatever they're trying to achieve, it's leaned against the wrong building. So the more they achieve, the more empty they feel. And once again, after a certain age, once you kind of see these patterns going back and forth, you begin to feel helpless, you begin to feel helpless, like you don't have any power. And once again, you don't really even know who you are deep down inside. So once again, the person is more likely then to seek out food, because food, it gives you that power. You can, once again, pick it up, eat it when you want it, put it back down, and also it gives you that unconditional love. It always accepts you for who you are, always makes you feel good, doesn't ask any questions, doesn't judge you. This is very tempting because the person doesn't feel like they ever have this in their life. So once again, it leads to a mindset that doesn't facilitate health conscious choices, which leads to poor eating habits, poor lifestyle choices, and leads to the weight gain that's not desirable. Donovan, good to see you, man. Leads to the weight gain that's not desirable for the person. And then the fourth variable is these days, kind of, not living a health conscious lifestyle, or obesity or disease has kind of been normalized in society. So a lot of people that are actually overweight or very unhealthy perceive themselves as possibly not to be, because the people that they're working with, for example, in their office or even at construction work, there's a lot of unhealthy people in construction work, any form of work, are even less healthy than they are. So they kind of don't even see that it's not healthy for them to be that way. So they just kind of continue on their patterns, usually, once again, still having that love-hate relationship, still having that story gap, still having also that emptiness feeling, which once again leads up the chain of command. George, good to see you, man. Marius, good to see you as well. And then all that is basically a byproduct of a misalignment of core values. So core values are basically like the blueprint to who you are, and basically your core values kind of dictate, am I headed in the right direction? Am I not headed in the right direction? And if you don't have a very clear, defined set of core values, which you could only honestly gain by basically going out in life, making mistakes and learning from them, because as Walensky would say, basically you find out who you are by finding out who you are not first. And that's really the only way to find out your core values, which lay the foundation to determining which relationships you should get into that are aligned to your core values, which job you should get into that are aligned to your core values. So that way you don't get those cortisol spikes, which then lead to poor nutrition, poor lifestyle choices, which then lead to weight gain. So you can see kind of now that's, Alonzo, good to see you, man. So you can see basically how important it is to view your fat loss journey of wanting to lose 30 pounds basically by that etiology tree, instead of just stopping at, I need to eat better and I need to work out more, which is important, but only important and only works when that foundation is laid. And so I hope that, Alonzo, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. So I hope that's clear. Let me know if that answers it. Okay, Scott? Does anyone else have any other questions? Scott asked a question. He said he wanted to lose 30 pounds. And we talked about why it's important to embark on a journey and obviously change your nutrition and change your workout, but also work at the deeper issues of why that weight gain happened to begin with, because that's super, super important to address. And without addressing that, you can't expect any lasting change to happen. You will no doubt lose any amount of weight you want to lose, 10, 20, 30, 40 pounds, but it's very, very unlikely for you to keep that off long term. In fact, like, I haven't checked this in a while, but the statistics for weight loss journeys is basically like 95% of people just regain all the weight, if not more, within a 2-year period. So that's why it's important to have your core values, which set the foundation to what relationships you should get into, what job you should get into, because if you kind of don't hit those right, it will cause a lot of distress in the central nervous system, which will lead to a lot of weight gain. So then there's no point of really constantly being on these like fat loss programs or nutrition programs. So does anyone have any questions? George, Alonzo? I could help answer maybe nutrition questions or stuff of that sort. Feel free to ask, guys. I'm here to help you. So if not, then I will talk about other variables until some questions come up. So I think in the group I saw one person ask in terms of like what ab exercises to do to, I think, shrink their midsection or something. And it's important to understand that no ab exercise will help burn actual body fat. Oh, where do I get my liver? So I have, Paco, I have a few places. So you got to be very careful with organs. First of all, are you referring to beef liver, or maybe chicken liver or any other animal? So I get my beef liver from leafycreekfarm.com, 5-bar beef, and also azgrassraisedbeef.com as well. So do you need animal organs in your diet? I don't think you do, but in my opinion, you really don't. So if you kind of don't like the taste, it's not a big deal. You can get those nutrients from other sources, but they are very nutritionally dense. In fact, if you look up the nutritional profile of, let's say, beef liver compared to beef, the actual muscle meat, beef liver will actually be a lot more nutritionally dense and also a lot cheaper. So sometimes if people have trouble financially transitioning into a more organic diet, which is a little bit tricky, Alonzo, I'll answer your question in a second, which is a little bit tricky because they can start with the ground beef options and start with the organ options, which are pretty cheap. Usually you can get them for like $7 or $8 a pound. But for the amount of nutrition that's there, that's like a tremendous amount of nutrition. Usually what I found when transitioning people to an organic diet, they typically eat about 30 to 40% less calories than they would on the standard American diet. Julia, good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. They typically eat 30 to 40% less calories, especially at the beginning phases of their program, than they do on the standard American diet. So it actually ends up being overall cheaper. Per gram of food or per pound of food, they're actually paying a bit more, but they're eating so much less, so they actually end up paying less. And typically what I found at the grocery store, if you buy organic versus factory farmed food, so factory farmed food will typically cost about $7.70 per day for a 2,000 calorie diet. And at least the supermarket level organic will cost you about $12.20, which is about a $5 difference, but you have to look at it this way. It's a $5 difference, sure, but you have to look like what's the average American spending on their healthcare? They're spending $5,000 to $10,000 a year on their healthcare related just to poor nutritional choices. That's it. Just to poor nutritional choices. For their copays, they're paying basically $5,000 to $7,000 a year, so that's quite a bit. And if you eat a all organic supermarket level organic diet, that's just costing you about a little under $4,000 a year. So that could save you on the back end that $5,000 to $7,000 of Joshua, good to see you, man. That $5,000 to $7,000 of medical expenses every single year. Also, the average American spends about $6,000 to $15,000 a year in non-essential expenses such as alcohol, Netflix subscriptions, smartphones, all that stuff. So remember, having an all organic diet, which will give you like an amazing body, amazing health. It's really impossible to kind of gain body fat eating all organic. Is only a little under $4,000 a year. But having all those non-essential expenses and the medical expenses will average out about $15,000 a year. So it's a little tricky. It's overall much cheaper, and there's a lot of politics that goes into why organic tends to be a little bit more expensive, and that's mainly because it's not subsidized by the taxpayer, such as the factory farmed industry. I can go into that a little bit in detail later, but let me see some other questions. So going back, what were you talking about? The forum, blah, 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 such as that. Let me move this a little closer, actually, so I can read this a bit better. It's kind of tough to read with the such as cleans. Okay, some exercises. Let me read more. Boom, 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 boom. So exercises that could help, better alternatives. I know you mentioned pull-ups. Okay, Alonzo, yeah, that's important. I see a lot of people, and this has become more popular because of Instagram. So I see a lot of people doing, barbell deadlifts, back squats, cleans a lot more. But just know these exercises are extremely technical, and you can get, and especially if like aesthetics or just like looking your best and even good functionality are your goals, you don't need to do these exercises. And in fact, there's a lot more danger than there is reward, risk to reward with doing, deadlifts, even hex bar deadlifts, back squats, front squats, especially cleans. Cleans are extremely, extremely technical. They'll take you like years to master. And typically on the first year, the person would just be working with just the bar the entire year. And if like losing weight, just having like an attractive body and just having like good functionality to your physique, that basically you can go hiking or you can have good endurance or you can have good athleticism, don't require these movements. You have to first ask when you're doing an exercise, like, why do you want to do this exercise? Like, how does it benefit you? And are there safer alternatives that give you just as much, if not more benefit? So, for example, with the clean, let me scroll down a little bit. So example, with a clean, barbell clean, like what would that do to you? It's not going to really improve your aesthetics that much. It could improve your explosiveness a little bit more, but then you can do other things for explosiveness. And it's also, explosiveness is all relative to, like, what are you trying to be explosive in? It's not going to help you be explosive in everything, because a lot of things are technique related, not necessarily just raw strength and power and explosiveness related. So you have to take that in consideration. Like, explosiveness is good technique matched with good power, matched with good timing. So good mind muscle memory, power, and good timing as well. So do I need that exercise in the routine? And I would say 99.999% of the time you do not. I don't do basically any of those exercises. The only exercise I do is like a hex bar deadlift from time to time. I just found there are a lot safer alternatives that actually, give good muscle stimulation and are just a lot safer and sparing on the joints and the discs of the back and all that stuff. So I would do, I would stick with, personally, like in my opinion, like what I would do if I was in your situation is stick with the basics, like pull-ups. Chest exercises tend to be very safe, but when you're, doing chest exercise, make sure you're not compensating with your shoulders, your core is still engaged. Like rowing exercises are very safe. Lunging exercises tend to be very safe if you don't have knee issues or hip issues. Stuff of that sort. Just stick to a lot better and safer exercises. Let me know if that answers it, okay? Does anyone have any other questions about nutrition possibly, or how to create lasting change? Let me look through these. How to create lasting change for the new year. That way you don't find yourself in cycles of losing weight just to find yourself gaining weight back. I see that very, very often. So Scott, I hope that answered your question about the 30 pounds. Cool. And then Armando, good to see you. Let me see here. No other questions. Boom, boom, boom. Cool. Zachary, good to see you again. Haven't heard from you for a while. All right, cool. Do you have any other questions, Alonzo? I'm open for any of them. I think one person in the group, I'll go to that one, asked about ab exercises and what to do to slim down, what ab exercises to use to slim down the body fat in the midsection. So basically there are no ab exercise you can do that slim down body fat. In fact, we all have already like pretty defined abs. Just the whole trick is about decreasing your body fat percentage. That's going to be the key. And usually for males, for example, once you start getting down to 12% and below, that's when you really start seeing the definition in the abs. Because unfortunately, like the body fat sits on top of the muscle. So it would be like the rectus abdominis would be the front of the abs. There would be body fat on top of it. So even if you have just like a little teeny bit, it'll be covering your musculature pretty much. So it's all about decreasing your body fat. But in terms of what ab exercises to do, I would highly recommend staying away from decline sit-ups for the most part, relying heavily on those, or sit-ups off the ground, for example, or what else? Like any kind of machine-based ab work. So especially the one where it's kind of locking your hips down in place and you're kind of rotating side to side. I would highly recommend staying away from that as well. That tends to put a lot of tension on the discs of the lower back, so it creates low back pain eventually. And it really doesn't do anything aesthetically for your physique that you can't accomplish with, like, for example, stir the pots or dead bugs, or even the roller. The roller is a little tricky at the back portion if you kind of bend your back, but if you keep it straight, it's actually a very good exercise as well. And farmer's carries, bottoms ups, suitcase carries are all very, very solid exercises for the back that are sparing to the discs, or for the core that are sparing to the discs of the back. So that's like very important to consider. So I would definitely avoid, just off the bat, as a general rule, avoid sit-ups off the ground, avoid any decline bench ab work, especially when it's weighted, okay? Carl, good to see you, man, especially when it's weighted. So I'd avoid that as well. Yeah, so some other things to consider for the new year, sourcing of high quality food, that's also very important. And also, like, try to concentrate on the basics. So a lot of people overlook the importance of sleep. That's super, super important. So what's high quality sleep? So high quality sleep is basically sleeping between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. Why? Because your body repairs itself physically from 10 p.m. to 2 a.m. and then it repairs itself mentally from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. So, like, let's say, of course, depending on your personality, let's say you need to go to sleep at 10 p.m. Okay, you need to go to sleep at 10 p.m. Let's say you have like a racing, or like what's referred to as like a monkey mind, a mind that can't slow down and typically takes a little while to fall asleep. Let's say you're actually in bed at 10, you actually fall asleep by 11. So throughout the week average, you missed about 7 hours of physical repair time for your body every single week. So that's basically like missing 1 day's worth of sleep every single week, and that's 4 days worth of sleep throughout the whole entire month. And then multiply that by 12 months, you're looking at 48 days of sleep or so throughout the entire 12 months. I don't know the math or something. Jake, good to see you, man. Are there any local places to buy solid organic produce in the US? Yeah, there are plenty. And just know, you guys, you don't have to actually go to these places. There are many places that offer way, way higher quality food than even Whole Foods would ever offer. And in fact, Whole Foods being seen as the apex of food production, probably, 80% of their choices that you have there come from factory farmed environments. So it's very hard to find even meat that they sell there that's fed a species-specific diet. So like legitimate grass-fed beef, for example, et cetera, et cetera. So Jake, to answer your question, you can buy high-quality wild fish at most grocery stores, Albertsons, Ralph's. I like ordering it from Whole Foods personally, or Instacart, because they deliver it straight to your door for like $10, usually around $10. And if you order, because I order my fish frozen because it's actually fresher when it's frozen, because they typically freeze the fish either on the boat or like a processing plant that same day. versus like when you're buying it at the store and it's out on display, it's actually ironically less fresh because you really don't know how long it's been sitting out there for. So it could sit out there, you know, transportation, it takes like 2 days. Then it sits out there on the counter, in the ice, of course, but still for another day or two. Then it sits in your refrigerator for another day or two. That fish is like too old in that case. And remember, the second the animal dies, the nutritional profile gets lower and lower and lower. It's the same thing with vegetables as well. The second you pick the vegetables from the ground, the longer you wait, the less nutrition you'll get in the vegetable. We'll talk about that in a little bit too. But basically, so wild fish, you could just get at like Whole Foods or anywhere on Instacart. I would buy frozen. Buy for like a couple weeks in advance so you get the most out of that $10 shipping charge. Another awesome resource is AmericanGrassFed.org. You go to the bottom of that website and you click on the interactive map, and you can order from meat suppliers that are way better than anything you can find at Whole Foods, in my opinion, okay? And actually with their grass-fed beef, they actually do on-site inspections, which does not happen with any other grass-fed items pretty much sold at the grocery store level. So you get more of an authentic product. In fact, I would say it's almost impossible to find legitimate grass-fed products in the US because they actually get probably 90% of them from overseas on top of that. And even if it says like product of the USA, for example, that just means it was processed and packaged in the USA. So I could order some beef carcasses from Mexico, process them in California in a package, and still sell it as product of the USA because it's actually processed in the USA, okay? So it's important to remember those. Check out AmericanGrassFed.org. That's my favorite. Scroll to the bottom. You can order from multiple states away, and they deliver to your house in about 2 days. Personally, I don't buy any chicken, turkey, pork, or beef products at the grocery store anymore. The only thing I would buy at the grocery store is wild fish. But even that you can go to a website called vitalchoice.com. I don't purchase from there. I purchase from time to time from there, but not really consistently. But that's another great source. They only fish off like very distinct areas. Brenton, good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Michael, good to see you as well. So yeah, they only basically purchase from like very outskirt areas of Alaska where they have more strict rules on type of production factories that are able to be polluting the ocean there. Given that, I mean, you're still going to get pollutants in the ocean everywhere because it's an enclosed ecosystem and what comes around goes around everywhere. But that would be a good choice. So personally, I would stay away from beef, chicken, turkey, and pork at the supermarket level. You can still get wild fish at the supermarket level, and most vegetables are okay at the supermarket level as well, but a lot of them are hydroponically grown, so they're not even grown in the soil, and a lot of them are hydroponically grown. Basically means they're grown in kind of like a container where they have like an IV drip, and even if they're certified organic, they can still be grown hydroponically in the US. Let me know if that answers it well, okay? George, does 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. sleep repair cycle vary between morning people and night owls? For example, is it 9 to 5 for morning people? And so yeah, it's basically George is biologically hardwired to sleep between the cycles of the sun. So, I forgot the doctor's first name, but it's Dr. Walker, and he wrote a really good book like Why We Sleep or something of that sort. It's been a while since I read it. He was on the Joe Rogan show as well. I'll send it to you later. It's actually a really, really good episode, and he touches on a lot of important topics related to sleep. But for those hours, for those little fluctuations, honestly, it's not too big of a deal in my opinion. But if you really want to maximize your sleep, you ideally in your time zone want to be sleeping between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. And there is no such thing. It's like a myth that there's a thing of like a night person versus like a morning person. It's more like their typical routine. So a person that goes to sleep late obviously isn't going to be a morning person because they're not getting enough sleep and they're going to wake up drowsy and irritable and all that stuff. But if you're going to sleep at normal hours, I can guarantee you if you're in bed at 9 p.m. and you're already dead asleep at 10 p.m., you're 100% not going to want to sleep past like 6 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. Definitely guarantee. I've seen this a lot. I've seen a lot of like clients come to me and they're like, oh, I'm just like a night person and et cetera, et cetera. But then once they're a night person, and then remember that HAQ questionnaire I had you take, that holistic assessment questionnaire, then you see their scores are, their bio scores are like all over the place. You know, they report chronic fatigue, they report irritability, like high anger scores, et cetera, et cetera. Once we shift their sleeping schedule to be more of that natural cycle, all of a sudden those decrease, and all of a sudden their quote unquote like night owl, like genetics just disappears as well, and they feel actually like a lot better and more energetic. Okay, so I think I'm missing about 10 years of body repair then. Okay, Alonzo, it's not too late. You're still young, man. 10 years of body repair. I usually have questions. What is your opinion on supplements? Do you generally stay away from them? And blah, blah, blah. Okay, so supplements, I would only start taking supplements if you've mastered all of the basics first. Ask yourself honestly, are you sleeping between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.? Really getting deep sleep consistently, at least most nights out of the week. Okay, you are? All right, great. Are you working out at least 3 days a week, consistently, all the time, and in ways that actually facilitate your health, you know, like doing actually good spine-sparing movements, having that good hygiene, good technique, good periodization program depending on your energy levels? Are you doing that? Okay, great. Are you sourcing like a well-sourced organic diet? And there's so much that goes into each one of these. I'm going to try to just break it down in basic. Are you sourcing a well-sourced organic diet? Okay. Are you keeping your stress levels low? Are you at least taking like a few midday naps here and there throughout the week, like for 20 minutes? Are your stress levels consistently low, or does it feel like you're on adrenaline all the time? So those are just some basics. There's a little bit more variables, but just start with those 5. Ask yourself, have I mastered at least those 5? If you've mastered at least those 5, you're already ahead of like 99% of the population. You're going to be like very healthy. Your energy level is going to be very good. And then I would start throwing in a few supplements here or there, like a very few, depending on your specific needs. But for supplements, I would highly recommend buying for brands that are GMP certified. That's super, super important. And ideally source organic ingredients, because remember, if they're sourcing those factory farmed ingredients that are grown with like a myriad of biocides, antibiotics, steroids, fed genetically modified food, and all the myriad of chemicals that are used to grow that, grains rather, that's going to make, all those chemicals are going to make it in concentrated form in that supplement, which is then basically end up like polluting your body. You can look up various studies on PubMed.gov on supplement toxicity, and you'll see some of these supplements, the toxicity is like through the roof. And people are buying these to improve their health, but it's doing anything but. So GMP certified is super important. Make sure it's at least like USDA organic certified is a good, they'll have that logo. It's like a circular logo. It says USDA organic. It's like a green and black logo. And then if they do third-party testing of all incoming ingredients, that's also like a huge plus as well. But try, once again, master those basics first, and it'll take your body through the roof. In fact, I basically almost use no supplements all year round. Occasionally, I use some mushroom extract from Host Defense. Sometimes some collagen protein. Sometimes. It's not consistent though. So master sleeping. Are you sleeping between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m.? Are you working out 3 days a week in good for your body type and goal? Are you sourcing a good diet? You know, I listed some websites to Jake, he asked a little while ago. I would recommend buying from there. Are you keeping your stress levels, or are you working yourself to death all the time? Okay, because if you mess that one up right there, and your central nervous system is like very taxed all the time, there's no supplement that's going to help you. No energy drink, no coffee, nothing. If you can, am I living the life I want to live. That's a huge one. You know, that's going to lay the foundation to everything and improve your health a tremendous amount. Just that standalone one right there. If you really master all those, I guarantee you, you probably wouldn't even see a need to use supplements, but you can supplement, and that's the important. A little bit here, a little bit there, as needed. Okay? But don't rely on it. People look for that stuff as a quick fix, and all it ends up fixing is just it makes your wallet smaller because it ends up wasting all your money. So good point with the fish. That's probably why it tastes better to me when frozen. Okay, Emmer, good to hear from you, man. Hope you're doing well and feeling better. Brenton, good to see you. George, no problem. Okay. I go to sleep at very late doing my homework, usually 12 a.m. and get up at 7 a.m. Maybe that is why my body is weaker. Yeah, you really got to fix that. I had a problem with that too. I used to be super hardcore into academics. Joe, it's good to see you, man. Super hardcore into academics, and I would stay awake late because I didn't know any better. So now I know better. I've been presented with better research, and always try to be in bed probably, honestly, like an hour before I have to go to sleep. And I usually do like a little bit of reading under like an Edison light. So that's important too. You don't want your room to be so bright. In fact, I would recommend kind of turning off all the lights and relying on a small Edison light like after 6 p.m. In my opinion, it's worked wonders. I also bought this really cool thing because I tend to be very hot when I sleep. So I bought this Uller chilling system. It's like a really cool system that cools down your bed, and you can customize the temperature of the bed that way. And it's pretty cool because right now it's super cold where I am. I'm wearing this jacket, obviously. Usually it's like a bit hotter during the year, and it's kind of harder for me to sleep. So I customized that thing, and it kind of just basically changes the temperature of the bed according to the season, which is really cool. So I'd highly recommend doing that. But yeah, you got to get to sleep at an earlier hour, especially if you're trying to recover from injuries and stuff like that. Body is weaker and and it could increase your chances of injury too, because the only time your body repairs itself is when you sleep, especially when you're sleeping between the hours of 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. And if you're not sleeping well, you're missing basically, let's say 2 hours a day. So you're going to sleep at midnight. You're missing 2 hours a day. That's 14 hours a week. That's basically almost 2 days worth of sleeping every single week that you're missing. 2 days, so times 4, that's 8 days, 8 days a month, and then you multiply that by 12, you're missing like a tremendous amount of sleep all year round. It adds up a lot, and it has like a huge detrimental effect to your body. And usually the biggest mistake people make is then they have, Kenji, good to see you, man. Michael, good to see you as well. Puma, good to see you. Then they have coffee. They compensate with coffee or energy drinks, which is silly. One thing I want to ask you guys, have you ever noticed how coffee drinkers or people that have these energy drinks are always chronically tired or complaining about being tired, which is a little ironic because isn't coffee supposed to give you energy? Then why aren't these people the most energetic people in the world? Because the reason they're not is because if your sleeping is bad, there's no amount of energy drinks you can have that is going to help you. In fact, all these energy drinks do is make you run on negative energy. So it accelerates your aging, accelerates how your skin looks. You will look much older faster. Accelerates the aging of your organs. It's also very bad for your gut microbiome. It's very hard for most people's guts. Stuff of that sort. When your body is tired, you guys, it's important. When you feel tired, that's your body's way of communicating with you that you need to rest. You need to sleep better. And if it's not your body's way of saying, give me more coffee, that's just masking symptoms. And you could only do that so long before the problem comes back exponentially worse, okay? So also when you're running on constant fatigue or negative energy, your immune system is suppressed. Especially these days with the virus going around, as your immune system weakens, especially if you combine that with a high body fat percentage, your complications from COVID go through the roof. You can check out the CDC website. Basically, if you're over like 15% body fat for a male, your chances of having complications from COVID are 300 to 500% greater basically than a person that's below 15% body fat, okay? So don't rely on coffee. In fact, I don't even drink coffee anymore. It sounds like a crazy concept for most people that have been drinking coffee for a long time, but I guarantee you if you just try mastering those sleeping patterns, sleeping between the hours of 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., and just having good balance of energy throughout the day. Like if you're very tired, once again, that's your body's way of telling you need to rest. Take a quick 20-minute nap, then go about doing something else. If you find you're not having enough time, get better at time management or prioritizing your priorities. For example, even if you're working 50 hours a week, you spend 8 hours a day sleeping, which is perfect, and no one ever does that anymore. You hang out with your friends 15 hours a week. You work out 5 hours a week. You meal prep and eat your meals 5 hours a week. And you hang out with your friends like 15 hours a week. You still have probably like 40 to 35 hours left every single week. So you have enough time. You just have to economize and prioritize that time a lot better. Trust me, everyone has enough time. I train executive guys that are super busy, and they still get all this in with their time management. Not because they're disciplined. They might be disciplined in time management sense, but they're just not disciplined in the sense that they're just allocating their time better. You can't like manage time, quote unquote. Everyone has 24 hours in a day. You can just manage what you do with that time. So, okay, so one question, Joe. One question I have, I've been doing weight training for 67 minutes, 5 days a week. Lately, I'm completely overhauled my diet, so I have to see what changes that makes. But my workouts resulted in a slow loss of inches, but not weight. Was I overdoing it? So, Joe, that one's a little tricky to answer just right off the bat. So, if you're brand new to intense resistance training, then that might be the case. Like typically what that's referred to as kind of like newbie gains. So when a person first starts weightlifting routine, they're able to gain maybe like 10 to 15 pounds that first year of muscle, which is a lot. Typically like after the 2-year period of consistent weight training, like naturally you're looking at gaining like 2 to 3 pounds a year. So it depends on which bracket you fall into, but if you're let's say experienced already, you've been lifting for a couple of years of intense workouts that are well structured. What I find is people that aren't losing weight is because they're not losing body fat. Because typically you can lose about 2 pounds of body fat per week, so that's 8 pounds per month. But if you're more of the experienced lifter, you may be gaining like a half a pound a month. So in that case, you would actually be in a negative of 7.5 pounds if you were to lose that. But it depends. Once again, if you're brand new to it, then it might equal out. But you do want that number going down typically. Okay, let me know if that answers it. So, thank you for the feedback. Yes, I've noticed coworkers always tired, especially when they have coffee. Boom, boom, boom. Friends. Doesn't believe me, it's not good. Yeah, it's not good for them at all, especially if they're buying the cheap coffee. Coffee is one of those crops or beans that's grown with a tremendous amount of biocides, like very, very dangerous chemicals. And you're probably getting trace amounts of like 10 to 15 different chemicals in every cup of coffee. Because I'm pretty sure they're not buying the high grade stuff either. And the more chemicals you introduce into your body, the more body fat your body will create, because that's how it takes chemicals away from its organs to store it on the outside of its body so that you don't poison yourself. And this is actually one of the reasons of why people report like headaches or feeling not so great the first few weeks of losing body fat, because as your body begins to metabolize all that body fat and it starts shrinking, all those toxins and they're going right back to your bloodstream, so you're repoisoning yourself. And that's why a person typically feels a little bit sick the first few weeks. Johnny, good to see you. Christian, Joe. Okay, cool. All right, guys, so I hope that answers it. If you have any questions, just feel free. Let me check the time here. I don't even know how to check it on this thing. So I hope that answers it. I think that was about an hour. I really don't know how to check the time on this thing, but I might have to take off. I have a book club on Sunday that I do once a week, so I might have to take off to that pretty soon. It's at 1 p.m. my time. But I hope that answers it. it was good to see you guys. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me just read it through one more time to see if I got everyone's questions. Yep, cool. Yep, no problem, Jake. No problem, George. Alonzo, good luck. Okay, guys, so I hope that answers. If you have any questions, I'm going to start doing these like once a week on Sundays. Feel free to bring any questions you may have, okay? I'll try to have it more like theme-based next time. All right, so Paco, to answer your question, I don't think I got to the liver part. I order mine mostly from leafycreekfarm.com. Be very careful with where you order your animal organs from, okay? So, okay, all right, guys. Great to see you, everyone. Have a good week.
Thanks for tuning into the podcast. If you've ever had trouble losing weight, or you've lost weight, but still didn't have the ideal body or health you're aiming for, please feel free to reach out anytime and book an assessment. Eugene will work with you to cover your goals in detail, see what's holding you back, and go from there. In the meantime, feel free to check out the countless testimonials on Eugene's website in the link below. In the testimonial section, you'll notice everyone has various backgrounds, are of all different ages, and all have had different challenges in their life, but they all have one thing in common: they were all able to find their health and achieve their ideal body. You're also welcome to add yourself to the Facebook group in the link below. There you'll have access to the live videos that Eugene does weekly on Sundays, and other helpful content. Thank you again for tuning in.